Okay, we're talking this afternoon with the General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party, Mr. Bharrat Jagdeo, who's also the Vice President. Mr. Jagdeo, it's now coming on to 5 o'clock, almost 24 hours after the close of polls. I know you've been crunching the numbers, the party has been crunching the numbers. What are you seeing from your end?
So first of all, I'm extremely pleased that the process went smoothly so far. People were allowed to vote freely. You saw for yourself that there was an extremely peaceful one, and outside of the minor glitches that we had, the elections were efficiently organized, and I wish to thank GCOM for their work in that regard. We changed the law, so we're acting now pursuant to the new law. And that law was changed because of what took place in 2020, with Mr. Mengo using a spreadsheet instead of the SOPs to tabulate the votes. The GCOM has now uploaded about 98% of the SOPs that they have received from the polling places. Every Guyanese by now who is just a bit proficient with a calculator could sit down and calculate the results of the elections. And they would see, based on those results, who the victorious party was or is, and by a substantial margin too. I don't want to call the election results because we are awaiting the official declaration, and I think political parties should await GCOM making an official declaration. But given the system that we've introduced, there's no mystery any longer. You don't have to wait on GCOM giving you dribbles of information. You have the bulk of the SOPs from which the results would be tabulated. And so I don't see why political parties are speaking the nonsense that they're speaking about wait GCOM official results. And one party said, oh, like Mr. Norton, he still sees a pathway to victory, when everything is in the public domain already. About 5 a.m. this morning, we completed the internal tabulation, and we knew the results because we had about 99% of the SOPs, and then we used, and then the remaining 1% we used the tally sheets where we did not receive the SOPs as yet. We're good at mathematics. We're good in 2020 at mathematics, and we're good at mathematics again. And it's simple now. The elections are over. It's now a question of mathematics. And anyone who can use a calculator would know the results.
And knowing those results, I know you said, based on what you've seen, you're going into this comfortably.
Yes, comfortably, and by a big margin too.
In terms of the National Assembly and that makeup, what are you seeing in terms of how that could be shaken up?
Now, the PPP will go into the National Assembly with a bigger majority than it did in 2020. That's very clear from the trend you were seeing and from the gap between our total votes and that of WIN, APNU, and all the other small parties combined. There is a substantial difference between the votes we garnered at the elections and what they did combined. So clearly, we'll have an increased majority in the parliament. Now, we knew, based on our polls, we sought to signal this to APNU. Several times at my press conference, I did this, that the WIN party was going to do damage to APNU. And they will do so because of a combination of things. One, that there are several people in APNU or who supported APNU in the past who did not want to support APNU again, and they were looking for a party that is not the PPP. So Win benefited from that. Secondly, they paid out a lot of money. This guy used a ton of money to induce people to vote for him. And thirdly, they were running a social media campaign based on lies, which resonated with a lot of young voters, voters who might be impressionable, and there was a large number, nearly 100,000 new voters on their list. So combination of those things led to Win displacing APNU as the party that is second ranked in these elections. It's a question now for APNU to consider, given that they had this strategy that somehow they felt that by collaboration with Win, they will cause the PPP to become a minority government. And they almost encouraged their supporters over time to speak favorable things about Win and Azruddin Mohammed, when basically this guy was a criminal-oriented person. But they tried to soften that by lending support to him with the hope that he will displace the PPP. We pointed out it was not going to happen, and we were right about it, and they were wrong. And being wrong has consequences for them. And that's why Congress Place must be a very sad place today. And I'm sure that a number of people who were vilified by the APNU trolls who left APNU and came to the PPP, they must be very happy today because they came to a party that has won the elections outright and with a bigger majority in Parliament, and their party has now been reduced to number 3 in the Parliament.
But we've also seen a low voter turnout, and you spoke about this briefly last evening in that interview. What do you think that says about the Guyanese electorate and their response to not just the new parties, but also the two older ones?
In 2006, we had low voter turnout too, and the PPP won a sizable majority. And I think there's a lot of people here, we suffered a bit from it too, not as badly as APNU, where people were supremely confident, complacency on the part of many of our voters, and we were fighting against complacency. Not that they were not supporting the party, they were overconfident. And then in APNU's base, I think a lot of people may have decided that they like what the government is doing, and they didn't want to come out overtly and vote PPP, but they chose to stay away from the elections. And so, in a way, those conversations that you were so upset with when we call people at home with the telephone calls, etc., may have helped people to better understand what we're about. We were campaigning for their votes on the basis of performance, and that may have helped a lot too. So there'll be time for analysis, but right now I've seen some extraordinarily stupid people commenting that they're winning the elections and stuff like that in the face of the SOPs being out there. How more stupid could you get? Then all the documents are out there to allow you to make a judgment. You just have to do the mathematics. And they keep persisting with this fallacy. And I see also the GHRA coming out with, some Bangladeshis voted, etc. Not a single person who was not eligible to vote voted on election day. If they were Bangladeshis there, we don't know who they voted for, but they would have been eligible, just like the Nigerians or the Chinese or Haitians, well, not the Chinese, because they're not Commonwealth citizens, but the Trinidadians or the Jamaicans or the Barbadians or some people from Ghana who are here, they would be eligible as Commonwealth citizens pursuant to our Constitution. Once they're here for a year, they can register and vote. We could change that in the future, but that's the law of the country and the Constitution. Nobody didn't complain when this happened. Nobody assessed how many Nigerians voted in these elections are here. But I see the GHRA and some of the others already trying to say, oh, the elections are rigged again, but can't provide any evidence of this. These are extremely people who can never be satisfied when good things happen in this country. The sour people in GHRA and Red Thread and the APA and the usual crowd.
But sir, are you surprised that when you look at the results that you've been looking at, are you surprised at how we win as a new party performance?
No. I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised at all because of the potent mixture of the things I mentioned to you. They can wage a campaign of lies, deception. You know, when you build up a following on the basis of so-called charity, and then you use that page to only lie, and nobody could get on their page to dispute the lie. That's what they did. They told a ton of lies to people throughout the country. They were sanctioned by the PPP. They were victims of a PPP vendetta, etc. But it didn't work. In Region 1, we still won Region 1. We increased our votes in Region 9. We won it outright. We increased our votes in Region 8. We won it outright. We didn't win it in 2020. We had 43% of the votes. And I think in Region 7, we're holding around the same percentage as we got in 2020. Where is this big denting of the PPP support? Where did it happen? You know, you have pockets of people who, even our strongholds, had voted APNU in the past. They voted for Win. Did not happen. They were miscalculating this variable. And APNU was complicit with Win in that regard. I think they were sharing notes about how that we will be a minority government. Look at the campaign they waged in the last 3 weeks. Helped by Starbuck News and many others, they did a fake poll that we'd be a minority government. Then they started discussing it on Globespan. Nigel Hughes came out. Everyone was talking about a minority government. And we said, no, we'll win the elections outright, which we did. And we will, and we did so with a bigger majority, and we'll prove that they were wrong, and they were wrong.
Moving forward, and finally, sir, you will find yourself in the National Assembly having to work with these two other parties on whether it's pieces of legislation or constitutional matters.
That would be interesting.
How do you see that working?
That would be interesting. I hope. In fact, Parliament will be very interesting. I may start going more often to Parliament to listen to Azruddin Mohammed make a speech. Oh, I'm looking forward to that, given that he didn't do so as a host a single press conference in the entire campaign by himself. I'm looking forward to him speaking in the Parliament, which is sometimes a very unforgiving environment. So politics would be interesting. But let me thank the PPP supporters around the country. They work hard. our activists, etc. They did a great job. They carried our message to the people of the country. And it's only fitting that they are rewarded with success, and I want to express my gratitude to them.
And to the ones who,
And to the ones who did not vote for us, we work for Guyana. We work for Guyana. We've always carried a national agenda, and their futures are also secured with us.
I know, finally, quickly, I know you might be scribbling what the new government would look like.
No, that's for President Ali to do.
Well, you got great influence.
President Ali will determine what the new government looks like. As General Secretary of the party, I speak about elections and about making sure the party is successful. And we're so pleased that our party has grown and it's successful. We are going into the new government with a bigger majority and more confident than ever before. So I just wanted to dispel all this silliness that you see out there today, even at this hour, because of those parties, as though they don't know the results already, as though they don't know. So that's why I wanted to do. But thank you to everyone. Thank you to all our supporters again, and to all those people who stood with us.